Hello everyone and welcome back. We are headed round 12 of our 2019 Formula One season, and after our little stop in Germany with our unplanned spinorama in the wet, we are hoping to have a little better fortunes here in Hungary at the Hungaroring. We're going to go ahead and take a peek at the messages and see we have yet another failed development and wet qualifying but dry race. So we still haven't quite fully escaped this run of rain that has stretched all the way back to Austria, really. And we are still sitting at the bottom of the tech tree. Now, the Hungaroring is a very technical track. Some announcers call it, Monaco without the walls. I don't think that's completely accurate. It's a much longer track and a few more straights, but it is one that is tough to develop a good rhythm on, and it not really being a power circuit, our car that is struggling in the aero and chassis development areas, in spite of all the effort we've put in, they're still, dead last in both of those areas. It's one that this car is going to have a struggle with, and again, driving in the rain is not my forte still just yet. Haven't had a ton of experience doing it, so it's definitely going to be a struggle. Now, on the flip side, on the plus side, if we do have a bad qualifying, then we can take some parts.
The excitement is starting to build here at the Hungaroring as the lights are about to go green for today's qualifying session. We expect some cars out on track any moment now. With the weather as it is today, Anthony Davidson, we have, to some extent, to throw the form book out of the window. Who do you see having the advantage on this slippery, unpredictable track surface?
The trouble is, Crofty, they need to be thinking about the race tomorrow. You don't want to go jacking up the ride heights and piling on a few points of extra downforce that you're not going to want in the Grand Prix itself. The Parc Fermé regulations mean that you have to make that choice. The best thing the drivers can do is adapt with the tools they have available in the cockpit. Moving the brake bias forward will help stop the rear end slipping out under braking, and opening up the differential can really help tame the oversteer on corner exit. The drivers that can make best use of these techniques will have the best chance for success here today.
Alright, here we are straight out on flying lap number 1, down the tail bit of the main straight and into the hard first hairpin, and then into this short sweeper downhill, the second DRS zone on the course, and one of Hungary's many long 180-degree corners. You'll see quite a few of those throughout the course of this track, and you see the rain is coming down. We're into these fast blind left-hand kink coming up over the hill, and this curb on the inside of this corner is atrocious. If you touch it, you're doomed. And down a little short run into a braking zone chicane with some very punishing curbs. As you can see, my overzealousness on the accelerator in the wet weather really sent the back end quite around. But here's the next kind of rhythm section. A lot of rights, lefts, a flat out little left-hand kink before a kind of touch the brakes and turn in right-hander. We've got kind of the final big straightaway into this kind of stadium section where we have, again, the second to last corner, one of those long 180-degree kind of C corners. Some decent banking in there, so you can carry some speed, but it does flatten out on exit, so if you do get a little too happy on the throttle, you will cause some spin. And then the final right-hander that we just missed big time in our first lap here, but it's our first qualifying lap in this wet weather, and we just kind of see what time we can post up. We're going to hop towards the tail end of my second flying lap here. We are sitting P20 on the grid. We improved by over a second on this lap, but still 20th. So we were definitely significantly off the pace. We banged in a couple of more laps, and unfortunately, we weren't able to climb off the bottom. We did get a little closer to making a couple moves, but still 7/10 off of the next position is not ideal for us. But on the plus side, that means we get to essentially throw away and never have to even worry about some of our older components because we are essentially getting a free set of power units. Now, real life F1 is kind of dialed back on this. I think you're only allowed to have 3 of each component type active, so you can't just like take a bunch of extras like I'm doing here. But I mean, I'm basically not using the first 2 of any set that started with 3. So I'm kind of inside the rule. I just didn't really follow it to a T. But let's go to the track.
We've seen some astonishing Grand Prix here over the years, haven't we? The drama of 2015 is a recent example. Jenson Button's first win on a wet track in 2006, or in 1997, Damon Hill's heartbreak in the Arrows after a late gearbox failure cost him what would have been the team's only ever victory. What a wonderful place this is to come racing today. 14 corners then for our drivers to navigate at the 2.7-mile Hungaro ring today. It's 6 lefts and 8 rights around a lap here, with average speeds in the region of 120 miles per hour. With the Grand Prix nearly upon us, Anthony Davidson is by my side once again to offer his perspective. Let's start with the new Alfa Romeo driver. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Leclerc, Lucas Faber and Ricciardo, Grosjean, Perez, Magnussen and Pierre Gasly, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Lance Stroll and Norris, Vettel, Albon, Devon Butler and Kimi Raikkonen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Russell and old-timer. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, be wary of the cars ahead braking suddenly into one. We could ruin our race if we hit them. Good luck.
Alright, so here we are on the grid. Now, in hindsight, we probably could have moved up a couple of positions because of other people taking their own penalties, but starting 17th versus starting 20th is not a huge difference to me right now, especially on this track. Luckily, dry and sunny, so warm track temperatures up until the last little bit when the cloud cover starts to come in. But we have to kind of dive into our car setup and reset everything from being in the wet. So we are going to leave the extra little bit of wing just to help deal with some of the understeer characteristics, but I'm going to fling around our differential and brake bias settings real quick, and we're going to stick with the standard strategy, mediums onto hards, a one-stop strategy. But we've got 5 red lights up and then lights out, and away we go. Kind of a tentative start, really. This wheel spun up on us, but everybody's going to bunch up coming down into turn 1 here. So we are going to look to pick our way down the inside, and we send it past and are going 3 wide through that first hairpin, and we are wheel to wheel with Kimi Raikkonen down this next little straight. We're going to try and stick it round the outside. They're kind of running 2 by 2 down this little bit. We've got Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, both of the McLarens right in front of us, but we finally managed to squeeze out Kimi Raikkonen and hold down that 16th position. Now it's our chance to try and attack the McLarens into the next sector. Well, not a ton of passing opportunities in this little bit, but since they're going to back up a little longer in that chicane, I decided to send it down the inside, out brake, and push Lando Norris out of the way. And so now we can roll our way up on the back of Sainz. We've already picked up 5 positions. Again, I'm just better driving in the dry than the wet right now. My pace is much better in the dry, but putting ourselves on the back foot, starting so far down the grid, is definitely going to make this race a challenge to maintain a good track position. And here we are, getting ready to head into the final corner for the first time around this track. And see if we can't grab a bit of slipstream and close this gap up to Carlos Sainz now that we're starting to chase this down. We're kind of hung out in no man's land. We got about the same gap in front and behind us, whereas they're a little more bunched up on the back side there. And one of the Ferraris, it looks like, I believe that's Sebastian Vettel, is kind of caught up in this back of the grid running right now, thanks to the penalties he took. That moved him down the grid, but he'll likely make his way through pretty soon. You see we've kind of settled into the train here. That fast kink is blind. It's a little scary coming over the top. This area, that coming out of that long right-hander, was an area of a lot of wheel spin for me throughout this race. You'll see it a few times. So just the car gets light coming over the crest of that hill, and you get just a little eager on the throttle. But we're into the next really technical section of Sector 2 here. Just trying to keep temperatures in our tires. Kimi Räikkönen is starting to run us down. He is running the soft compounded tire, so he's running the faster compound to start this race off. So especially in the technical section where there's a lot of cornering, he's got a definite advantage on us. We had a little lock up into that penultimate corner, but we managed to hold our position into the final corner. And we're going to hop on the throttle and get down the main straight, across the start-finish line, start lap number 3. DRS will be enabled starting this, and Räikkönen's got a good toe on us. Even without the DRS, he looks to go to the inside of the hairpin. We leave him the space as we go around the outside. We're going to try and drag race down this hill with him. We managed to just edge him out and slip back in front of him before we hit the braking zone of the next left-hander. I would estimate that our battles with him are not yet done with this race. Click down 2 gears, swing through that left-hander. Really, that left-hander, good time through, is all about being brave. And you see a massive oversteer, and I have to countersteer to counteract it to keep the car on track. And Räikkönen gets a good run on the outside, but we're able to get just enough momentum to hold the inside line and force him out, essentially. But and here we go wide through that right-hander, and you can see those proximity arrows, the bright white as he is closing right up on our gearbox. It'll switch to red as he looks to dive down the inside of us into this next braking zone. We leave a little bit of room on the inside to make sure we don't pinch him off the track. We don't want to be running anybody off the road today. I mean, we will get our elbows out, you know, from battles for position, but we're still going to do our best to race cleanly. We kind of missed the apex on that long right-hander, and now he's going to have DRS to attack us down this straight. We are more than a second off the cars in front, so we don't have the benefit. And you can see as he swings to the inside, we're again going to hold the outside, and he's going to get just a little nose ahead of us, but we're going to go ahead and drag race him down this straight again. This time we're not going to be able to quite cover him off. He's actually going to still get ahead of us, so we have to still battle through this long left-hander side by side. Now into this kink where we have to leave a little bit of space, but he backed out of that one pretty wisely. Here we go. Up again, tight on our tail. Just a teeny bit of wheel spin that time. It was just something I really struggle with on this track, is getting the rhythm of a lot of these corners down. There's a lot of them that are just short runs of acceleration, back on the brakes. Finding a good line through those combinations of corners is tough. Sometimes you hit it right on, and without a ton of practice on the tracks, you know, it's a little tough to suss it out completely. But we are starting to reel in Albon in front of us, which is good news, which means we'll have DRS thanks to him to help defend from the DRS behind us that Kimi Räikkönen has been pounding us with ever since it's been available. So we open DRS, we get down the main straight here.
Leading our teammate by 2.
And we start to make a little bit of ground on Albon, but not a ton, as he also has DRS in the braking zone. Carlos Sainz right in front of him. So after our massive 5-position lunge throughout the first lap, we've kind of settled into this position. Räikkönen's kind of come back at us, so we've been spending some time defending and battling with him, as that Toro Rosso in front of us has a little bit better natural pace, being a little higher up on the development chart. But we get on the throttle a little too early through that kink, and we have a massive oversteer issue, and we have to run off the side of the track and try and rejoin our way as best we can, but it is not a super safe rejoin. And now heading through the chicane, we slot back in front of now the tail end group that is the Toro Rosso of Devin Butler, Lando Norris behind him, and our teammate George Russell bringing up the rear. And there you see we lost 2 positions thanks to that. We're now down to P17 when we were running P15 before that big mistake. Vettel and Raikkonen were able to get through us. We came back on track just in front of the other Toro Rosso of our old F2 rival Devin Butler, and then the McLaren of Lando Norris and our teammate George Russell at the back of the grid right now. So we are kind of the tail train, and coming to lap 6, we are now trying to make positions back up throughout the course of this race. Still fairly early in this run. We got to try and minimize these mistakes, really. It is, like I said, it's a tough track. A lot of traction areas where you're changing elevation, you're losing weight on the rear tires, and it just really kind of throws you for a loop.
Information on Albon. They have some kind of mechanical problem.
Looks like Albon's having an issue ahead of us. It looks like we look just ahead. Raikkonen's already made his way through. It won't be long before Vettel goes, and there he goes down the inside of him right in front of us. They are side by side through the chicane into the next corner, kind of battling back and forth, but there goes Vettel finally slotting in fully in front, and we are starting to reel him in. We were able to make a little bit of ground purely on the fact that they were fighting each other, but now Vettel's going to kind of run off into the distance, and we are going to really catch up on Albon. So whatever that issue he's having right now, it must be fairly significant. We go a little deep into the corner and we lock up, and we're right on his gearbox. We're going to go ahead and look to the inside, but he's going to turn in on us. Wheel contact, and we're going to lose a little bit of traction. We're going to step the back end out, and now we are under attack from his teammate, Devin Butler. But we have the tow, we have DRS, and we were going to look to the inside, but Albon moved to the inside, and we had to kind of just get on the brakes and swing outside to just avoid contact and not get involved with a wreck. We were looking to go down the inside for the pass, but Albon changed his line under braking, which you are absolutely not supposed to do. Luckily, I was able to react just fast enough to get through, and now we've got a little bit of clean air in front of us. We do have Devin Butler also seems to have made his way through. He's going to continue to hound us. You see another bit of counter steer coming up the hill and into the chicane we go. So we're going to go ahead and jump ahead, lap 16, diving into the pits for the end of this medium compound stint. We're going to throw on the hard compounded tires that will take us the rest of the way there. We've got Devin Butler right behind us, pitting alongside us. So he will be the fight we have coming out of the pits, and we're going to be basically the back of the field. I think we might have been some of the first group really to run through and pit, aside from I think some of the top runners pitted off of their softs but didn't fall all the way through the grid because it's spaced out by that point. But Albon's issue eventually took him out. That's why there's only 19 cars running. And we're going to go ahead and jump on ahead to lap 22. We've opened up a little bit of a gap to Devin Butler there, and as we get to the later stages of the race, the clouds come in, the track temperatures are cooling, and we lose rear traction again off throttle, and that one was a big oversteer. We actually have to kind of cut through the chicane. The tires are overheated from that little bit of wheel spin. We need to get them cooled back down for this next section of corners. But as a result, Butler is right back on us. And you can see those rear tire temps are kind of coming back into line. They really got heated up from that slide. But we are 11.5 seconds back of the next car right now. So we've got to really get on our horse if we're going to get any better positioning in this race. Here we are through the penultimate corner, getting ready to set ourselves up for the last big sweeping right-hander. Devin Butler certainly in DRS range of us right now, but he may not be able to quite close the gap. 7/10 at the line. It's a little much to close down on that. Raikkonen out of the pits in front of us. He is switched on to his hards, was able to create enough of a gap to us to where his overcut essentially worked. And now we are going to try and chase him down while he tries and chases down Carlos Sainz in front of us.
The car ahead of you has just fitted the hard tyres. Car ahead now
Yes,
on hard
thank you,
compound.
Jeff. You can see that. But through the last sector mark, about 4.5 seconds down of Kimi Räikkönen as we come through the chicane with Devin Butler all over our back bumper, or lack thereof of a bumper, to gearbox and lights. The hard tires on this track were a little tough to deal with. We're going to go ahead and jump ahead a couple more laps to lap 26. You can see the yellows ahead, and Nico Hulkenberg has to retire. So another essentially free position for us. Only 18 cars running now, and we're running 15th of those 18. You can see Butler and Norris right up behind us as we clear the yellow flag area. And it's really going to be about keeping these tires alive and warm enough for the rest of this race. There are a lot of sections where it just felt like the tires just didn't have the traction they needed. This hard compound, a lot of understeer, even while still running the extra click of front wing to try and give it some more downforce. But it may be a situation now that we need to invest in more chassis development to help that front end grip up. Still very understeery and then oversteery off on throttle, and you see a little lock up into the braking zone in the stadium section. Nothing too bad there. We didn't overshoot our turn-in mark. We were able to get ourselves slowed down, thankfully. We only lost a little bit of time. You can see Butler creeping up behind us once again. There we are down into the hairpin, getting ready to get on the throttle for the next sweeper, the next DRS zone.
Battery charge is low. If we turn down the ERS deployment,
Yes,
we can
thanks,
harvest
Jeff.
more
It's
energy.
not like I haven't been doing this for 12 races and harvesting energy and managing it. It's okay. I got this. Here we are up the hill once again. We are actually pretty clean through that section that time, which is nice. A little bit of a lock up into the chicane, and the back end kind of steps out on us through that part. We managed to survive and into the next section of corners, run a little wide on the curb, but we're still pretty good there. And then coming out of that left-hand kink, it's usually flat out, but the car snap oversteered and I had to get out of the throttle, and as a result Butler goes sailing past us, and now Norris dives down the inside as we start to battle. Luckily we keep the traction around the outside of that corner. We are covering the middle of the track essentially, so he doesn't get past us through the penultimate corner. But now we're down a position again, and we've got Butler right in front of us, so we got to try and dial him back in. We are lap 28. We've got a few laps to try and reel him in, but he was hounding us, so he's got pretty good pace. And we're going to go ahead and jump ahead as we start lap 33 of 35.
We're leading our teammate by
We're going to go ahead and use the DRS. We're going to go around the outside of him, and we get on the throttle nice and early down that next straight, and we managed to get well clear of him. So it took us a few laps to reel him back in from lap 28 to lap 33, but we managed to dial him back in and get back on. Norris has dropped back and is almost in the clutches of our teammate George Russell. So we'll see. Maybe George can get by Lando and get a little better finish. But massive oversteer and tons of wheel spin as we got on the throttle there. Don't know really what caused that. It was just a little too eager on the throttle, I guess, and really was a tough one to correct. But luckily it wasn't so bad that we lost our position again. But as soon as we start to clear some gap to the car behind us, we seem to make a little bit of a mistake and struggle, and that just kind of is the feel of this track. Like, you've really got to be on it. You can't make a lot of mistakes if you want to move forward in this race. And just my lack of familiarity, my I ran quite a few practice laps, but it's a very technical circuit, and just didn't really get a good rhythm on there. And we're 12 seconds behind Kimi Räikkönen, so defending our 15th position is going to be about the best we can do running through this race. And after the struggle at Germany, where we were turned around and had to fight our way back through the rain and didn't have a particularly great finish there, we are unfortunately going to be kind of set up for another kind of off the pace finish, at least by our standards that we've had over the last after I'd say the second quarter of the season, as we get ready to hit the halfway point here with Hungary, and then headed to Belgium next. Obviously, the first like 3 or 4 races we were pretty off the pace, and a lot of just trying to get off the back foot. And the second quarter is where we really hit our stride. We also, luckily, we hit a couple tracks that I like and have some familiar with, outside of the Formula One games. So I kind of already had a good idea of braking points and that sort of thing. Or they were simpler tracks like Austria, where it was pretty easy to learn, and it's just a fun, fast circuit once you dial in the braking points. But there's a lot to remember around Hungary as we come through the last corner, getting ready to head into the hairpin for the final time. We've got a fair gap to Butler behind us, a little bit of understeer and go a little bit wider through that hairpin than we would want to. Weren't quite able to clip the apex and get down. You can see Lewis Hamilton wins the race there and also sets the fastest lap on the final lap, so earns himself a nice fat 26 points, 25 for the win, plus 1 for fastest lap of the race.
10.8 seconds.
We've got Butler about 7/10 behind us, but we really have to back out as we oversteered and turned in and clipped the curb there, so we had to get out of the throttle, make sure we didn't spin around there, and he's gonna hound us for the last little bit. Luckily, we've got some extra fuel mix to play with, so we have that dialed up. We've got plenty of ERS for the last couple of corners coming through as well, so we should be able to hold him off. He's about a half second back of us, and into a section that we, for the most part, have handled pretty decently throughout this race. But the penultimate corner, we get on a teeny bit of wheel spin, but we're playing it kind of safe through this last corner, just making sure to keep them behind us. There's not enough real space for a run out of that corner before you hit the line. You really need the full length. But there we are, crossing the line, 15th.
Nice work, you did well today.
Not my favorite track, not my favorite result, but we managed to do something with a 20th place start to finish 15th.
That's it for another Grand Prix and a fantastic win for Mercedes. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
And there you have it again, Mercedes covering 2 steps of the podium, the Red Bull of Max Verstappen in second place there, splitting them on the podium. Another points haul for the championship lead.
And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
I have to say Sebastian Vettel certainly caught my eye during today's race. Incredible driving.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. That was a pretty close finish with your old F2 rival. You two are pretty competitive, aren't you?
Yeah, but at the rate our car is coming along, he's not going to be able to compete with me much longer.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
I mean, just foot to the floor. The power unit is really what gained me a lot of the positions. It was the straight lines that got me the spots.
Do you think your rival learned from his battle with you?
I mean, my teammate, we're constantly learning from each other. We're both better because of it. And, I want my teammate to do well as well.
We all underestimated you, didn't we?
I mean, my team had faith in me. Feels great to live up to it. But it seems like you're starting to ask this like every week, Claire.
Great. Well, that's
So,
everything.
maybe estimate me a little better. And here we are back in the garage, taking a quick peek at the rivalry. Lance Stroll was finished ahead of us this time, and we have essentially a draw going right now, so we're pretty even. We managed to finish off a rivalry completion with George Russell. It'll restart a new one for him because it is a teammate, and that one is a locked-in rivalry, so we'll keep rocking with that. Pretty solid haul of resource points, especially with the team goal, the easier team goal being finished. So we've got about 2,000 R&D points to work with. I mean, the complete 6 practice programs, no problem that we can have. Apparently a big loss of rep for finishing that far down the field, but do what we can with what we've got.
That's a great result. You did really well. I don't think we can have any complaints with that performance.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, here we are. It's time for a new contract negotiation. Another 4 races completed. Really, I'm only worried about the perks, and we're able right now to get level 3 on all perks. As good as they get. I don't want to kind of tweak. I really don't want to tweak anything else right now. So I just go ahead and not even negotiate a new contract. I'm just going to keep the same contract that I've got going right now.
It's your call, but personally, I would have tried to push for better terms.
I'm fine with that.
There really is
but,
no harm in trying,
Emma, of course, wants me to push for better terms because she's my agent. She wants that little bit bigger cut, So we're going to go ahead and take a peek, run through the rivalry there, about halfway through that rivalry, jump into the R&D section. Obviously, we're going to have to repurchase the failed upgrade there. That's going to cost us 500 of our points and only leave us with 1,500. It's kind of a bummer, the amount of failures we've had. I mean, at this point, we've probably had about a couple thousand points worth of repurchase that we've had to do because of development failures. But that's kind of the rub of it. We should have another major upgrade from chassis coming in next week. Or next race, essentially, as we head to Belgium, which is great. We're going to take a peek, see what else chassis-wise there is. I mean, weight reduction may help us out. There is a tire wear one. But I'm going to go ahead and take a look at another aerodynamics one. We have another rear downforce upgrade. We do need to wait for that brake duct upgrade to come in next week as well before we're able to start developing the minors that are branched off of there. But that pretty much burns the rest of our R&D budget there, so we should have 2 coming in at Spa and 1 more coming in at Monza at Italy. So hopefully if all that aero can come through, we can really take advantage of the lower drag at those more power tracks. Well, that's the end of our weekend here in Hungary. We are headed after the little summer break to Belgium next and Spa, which is a big-time power circuit. So it's another circuit I like, so hopefully we can find ourselves on for a good event. Thank you for joining me. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.